Chicago, in the historic Bronzeville community. Why don't we all give ourselves a great round of applause? We know that the secretary is on her way, but she had so many people who wanted to see her and who wanted to be engaged until she had to stop a few times. But we'll be here when she gets here. And I can tell you the reason I'm so glad to be here. I am delighted to be here because I know the record of Hillary Clinton. I know the record of Hillary Clinton. I grew up in the state of Arkansas. As a matter of fact, it's the Arkansans in the house. It's the only state that's in the Bible. I see all these ministers over here. Noah looked over his ark and saw. And so there's no other state like that in the United States of America. But I know what she did for early childhood education. I know what she did for Head Start. I know where she has been on the issue of job development. I know what she feels about criminal justice reform. I know that she's not afraid to take on the tough issues. I know that she tried to get a national health plan in place before President Barack Obama was able to do it. And so she's been on the front line for us, and I'm proud to be on the front line for her. I am a Hillary Clinton supporter from hip to hip, toe to toe, and we're going to make history again, because I know that some females don't want to say it, but I ain't afraid to say it. We're going to elect the first woman president of the United States of America. Never been done before, but we're going to do it now, and it's good to be here with all of you. Reverend Sanders, here you go.
Did not have health care until President Obama brought forth affordable health care. And Hillary Clinton has made a pledge to continue affordable health care for all of America. Second reason is she has also committed to provide an economic agenda for urban renewal. She has pledged to put hundreds of billions of dollars into creating infrastructure on the west side, north side, all of the different metropolitan cities of America, and she's also committed to providing jobs. We need a president that will create jobs. There are too many people unemployed and underemployed. Hillary Clinton is going to produce jobs. She has also pledged to reform the criminal justice system. Of course, that has all of our support. Fourth reason is this. As an African American, Bernie Sanders has made an unequivocal statement against reparations. He said he, under no conditions, would support reparations. He said that, and we want all of the young African Americans who are for some reason supporting him to know where he stands on that issue. And then the last reason I'm going to support him is because we cannot afford, in a time such as this, for us to get trumped. God bless you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Reverend Akron.
We're blessed to have with us one of the rising stars in the United States Congress. She lives right here in Illinois. She represents the 2nd Congressional District, Congresswoman Robin Kelly.
Thank you so much. How's everybody doing out there? How many people are committed to taking friends and your family to the polls. That's the only way we're going to win this. We can't afford to be silent. We have to speak out. And I support Hillary because I'm the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Health Brain Trust, and we know that Hillary has stand for a long time about our health care and disparities and access to good health. Also, those of you who know that I'm passionate about the gun violence issue, and I know that Hillary will be a great partner in solving no matter who you get killed by, I'll put it like that. But we have a lot of work to do in that arena, and Hillary will be a great partner in that space. So she needs our help. We cannot fall asleep on the job. We've had bad things happen because we have not come out to vote. We haven't encouraged other people to come out to vote. And this election is so very important. I am there in D.C. almost every day, and I see what the Republicans do. I see how they treated the president we have right now. And I'm told that if it's Hillary that's president or when it is, they may not be that different than her. So we need the cavalry behind us so that we can get things done. And you are the cavalry. So thank you so much again for taking the time for being here. And let's go vote.
Thank you, Congressman Kelly. And now, in the city of Chicago, we are blessed to have some fine aldermen who are supporting this campaign, and the chairman of the Automatic Black Caucus is in the house. Alderman Roderick Sawyer, and along with him, Alderman Leslie Harrison. Let's hear it for them. Come on, let's hear it.
All right, let's hear it for Hillary Clinton. All right, I'm glad to be here today in support of our candidate for president. We've been in an interesting time. A series of firsts has been coming up in our community, all over the country. First with Barack Obama, now with Hillary Clinton, but we must continue this momentum. We can't be complacent. As you heard Congressman Kelly say previously, it's up to us whether we can create our own destiny or not. We need everyone to get out and vote. We cannot continue to have this insult level where people do things to us and we don't do anything about it. This is our time. This is our time to react. This is our time to act. And I think Hillary is the best choice for us going forward, making sure that we get all that's required of us. Let's get out and push votes for Hillary Clinton March 15th and support our ticket. It's extremely important. Let's get moving. Go to work.
Because I always know that the best man for a job is a woman. Hillary Clinton, and I want you all to be with me. We are in interesting times, ladies and gentlemen. We have a president with the unfortunate death of the Supreme Court. We have another opportunity to have our voices heard and get somebody that will be a voice of the people and that will listen to people. It is important. All of a sudden now we want to change the rules. We cannot do that. That is not what this country was founded on, and we are really fighting for our democracy. And that's what this campaign, that's what this election is about. And it's right here in the state of Illinois, right here in the city of Chicago, and particularly on the south and west side of the city of Chicago, that deliver votes. So I need us all to get out and vote. Not talk about voting, but get out and actually vote. I will be there with you all. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Labor is also in the house. Clint Brown, representing UFCW, is coming. Come on, let's hear it for our labor support.
Come on, guys. Y'all can do better than that. Come on. We're talking about each and every one of you, right? I'm here representing labor. We feel that Hillary Clinton is the best person for the job at this time. And we just want to make sure that our voices are being heard. Workers need to be heard, okay? It's a partnership. We're not taking anything away from business, but we want the workers to be heard. Each and every one of you have people in your household that needs jobs, needs benefits, and we as labor want to make sure that the voice is being heard at that White House. Am I right or am I wrong? and every one of our views. Thank you very much.
You gotta clean this up. Carmaine. You gotta clean the Carmaine.
All right. Bordering on the state of Illinois as well as Indiana, Bishop Travis Grant is in the house. Come on, Bishop. Chicago, put your hands together. This is a great city and a great time. Make some noise, Chicago. I said, make some noise, Chicago. Everybody say, we want Hillary. 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 Everybody scream Hillary. I want to thank each and every one of you. Let's give ourselves a round of applause today. This is a great day in the city of Chicago. And as others are coming, one of the reasons why I am supporting Hillary Clinton to be the next president of these United States is because she has a proven track record. I was proud of our president on yesterday who said that she was an outstanding Secretary of State. And it comes from an outstanding president. Let's give it up for President Barack Obama. Because when we talk about the record and the legacy of President Obama, there is nobody who is running who can carry on that legacy and keep the success and the record that the president has set forward. We are now putting more people to work. We're now able to insure more people. Our schools are getting better. And when our schools get better, our communities become better. President Barack Obama deserves a round of applause for 8 years of success. We cannot put the steering wheel in the hands of an unlicensed driver. I'm going to say it again. We cannot put the steering wheel in the hands of an unlicensed driver. Our opposition has just now become a Democrat. And that's questionable considering Donald Trump. The two of them have something in common. One has never been a Republican, the other has never been a Democrat. Our cause is that of a party that represents working class people, that represents unions, that represents people of color, that represents diversity. Hillary Clinton has demonstrated that, particularly for African Americans. The legacy of civil rights cannot be hijacked just because you show up at a march or you get arrested. Civil rights is a way of life. And we have come a long way in the last 8 years of bridging the gap and making America better for everybody, no matter your color, no matter your gender, no matter your religion, no matter your ethnicity. Hillary Clinton represents that for us, to take our nation and our country and merge it in a global community that makes sense for everybody. On yesterday in Harlem, she said something incredible, and it's the reason why I support her. She is prepared to invest $2 billion in school districts to improve schools and learning opportunities for the next generation. That's what Hillary Clinton stands for. She is very much an advocate, having been an advocate her entire career, but ready to invest $125 billion in communities hardest hit to break the pipeline from jail to schools. This is an incredible opportunity for us, and I don't know about you. I cannot wait to hear someone say, President Hillary Clinton. Somebody let me say it. President Hillary Clinton. Say it one more time. President Hillary Clinton. Just one more time. President Hillary Clinton. Make some noise. Thank you, Bishop Grant. Well, they always talk about young people. There are some young people who are all over this nation. A lot of them here. Come raise your hand who supported Hillary Clinton. And one of our newly young elected leaders in the city of Chicago. She is a commissioner in the Water Reclamation District. Won't you receive Commissioner Carrie Steele?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? You guys are kind of quiet. Are you excited to see Hillary Clinton? Be loud. Let her know that you are supporting her. We need all of you to get out and vote in this upcoming election. It is very, very important. I need you to vote. I need you to tell all of your friends to vote, and then tell them to tell some friends, okay? So I need you guys to be nice, show everyone that we are supporting Hillary, and we know that she is fighting for us. So everybody, let's scream really loud for Hillary Clinton. Thank you, and just let's stay excited. Come on now. Woo, 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 woo. Excited.
There's so many people all in this room from various walks of life, but we thank God for all the African American clergy who are in the house who are supporting Hillary Clinton. What's all kind of wave your hand, brothers and sisters over here. Look at this crowd. Let's give them a big hand. Already excited about them. And all the way from the Southland, won't you receive Apostle Paul White?
Oh, come on, let's give a big chant for Hillary Clinton. A big cheer. Come on. Listen, cheers are good and great, but the 29th of February is the first day that we can vote. We don't have to wait until the 15th of March. We can vote on the 29th. Let me just say the 29th of February. It's important that early voting starts so that you send a message in advance. And I challenge you, don't you wait, and don't let your family wait, don't let your friends wait. And the good thing about friends is when you have long-term friends. It's nice to meet new people, but there's nothing like having a long-term friend. And the Clinton family are long-term friends. And so let's get out and vote on the 29th. Let's start early. And the reason they put me up here with this background is they want me to sing because this is my choir. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
DJ, give us a little music for just a moment and we'll be back. But she is on the way.
Don't you move up. I'm going to let him move over so I can move down. There we go. No, right there. No, you're not going to be able to. That would be all that. No. She got to go back. I got to take care of my girls. Oh, yeah. I got to get a shot of the man.
A great round of applause to one of the greatest commissioners that serve on the Cook County Board. She represents the Southland. Want to receive Commissioner Deborah Sims.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is a great day. I see all the young people in the audience today. Let's give each one of you a round of applause. This is a great day. We're going to see the next president of this United States come in this room very shortly. Let's give it up. We all know if each and every one of you talks to somebody else in the next few weeks and tell them to do the right thing and to vote for former Secretary
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Geneva Reed-Gill and Hillary Clinton.
And close private immigration shelters. She supports the bipartisan USA Freedom Act. President Obama signed it into law and she had it back. She has fought for quality, affordable health care her entire career. So she'll defend the Affordable Care Act and build on the successes of it here. She'll cut taxes for the middle class, raise the minimum wage, and ensure the wealthiest pay their fair share. She'll invest in infrastructure and education. This woman, she really cares.
saw her take the hits. Yet she still manages to stand here, decades later, like it didn't bother her a bit. As Sandra Bland's mother, I know a little bit about frustration. You have to stand and push through it, even when you want a vacation. Like me, she misses the counselor of the little counselor who told her to always carry a shadow. So at any given time, she could dig herself out of trouble. Like me, she lost her dad in 1993. His wisdom played a big part in the strength she showed you. I've shared with you just some of Hillary's views. Now it's up to you to do your research and vote when you're through. People, we are expecting a new president. In 9 months, Hillary is the new baby. I present to you, Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton, our next. Respect, admiration for Geneva, her spirit, her commitment to take the terrible loss of her daughter, Sandra Bland, and turn that grief into action. She's here with her daughters, Siobhan, Sierra, Shante, and her wonderful husband, Mr. Ricky Deal. And so I know that every one of us wants to express again our appreciation to Geneva Reed Deal and her family. Not just for being here, not just for her strong endorsement, which I deeply appreciate, but for who they are, the kind of courage and spirit that they show to all of us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, there are other mothers of the movement here with us. Women who have lost their children. In one case, a daughter and a granddaughter, to gun violence. The inexplicable, horrifying loss of those you love is something so senseless. I just want to recognize them as well. Cleo Pendleton, mother of Adia Pendleton. Annette Nance Holt, mother of Blair Holt. Pamela Bosley, mother of Terrell Bosley. Maria Pike Davis, mother of Ricky Pike. And Wilmot Henry Corner, mother of Nova Henry. I had the privilege of
spending time with a number of mothers who find themselves in the worst possible position any mother could ever be. Looking at pictures of their children, hearing the stories, and the resolve in their voices that they want to do everything they can to help prevent any other mother from going through what they've gone through. I think we owe it to them. We owe it to them to reform police practices, to make sure that no other young woman like Sandra Bland is ever pulled out of a car for no good reason and thrown into a jail where she is found dead. We owe it to the families of young men like Laquan McDonald, and the other names that we know all too well. Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice, so many others. And we also owe it to the mothers whose children went out to a playground, like Adia Pendleton did, shortly after performing at President Obama's second inauguration. Can you imagine the honor and the excitement that young woman felt? And then just one night, some days later, hanging out with her friends in a playground across from her school, a random bullet ends that promising young woman's life. You know, these stories cannot be just ones that provoke our emotions. They must move us to action. They must motivate every one of us to take on these issues, reforming police practices, and making it as hard as possible for people to get guns who shouldn't have them in the first place. And that is the commitment I've made to these mothers. I know how hard it is. I'm not standing up here in the company of your dedicated members of Congress like Bobby Rush and Danny Davis and Robin Kelly telling you anything you don't know. People talk about how powerful lobbies are in Washington, and they are. Big money, big oil, drug companies, insurance companies, but I don't think there is a more powerful lobby than the gun lobby. Because what it is able to do is intimidate people, intimidate elected officials, prevent common sense reform, like the ones I am proposing, like the ones President Obama is backing. All we want is common sense. We want comprehensive background checks that close the gun show loophole and the online loophole. We want to close what is called the Charleston loophole. Let me explain to you what that is. There is a 3-day business limit. The time you have to conduct a background check. At the end of 3 days, the person wanting to buy the gun can come back and buy it. Whether or not the background check is complete, whether or not the records from local and federal law enforcement have arrived on your computer. That's what the killer in Charleston did. He went and applied to buy that gun. At the end of 3 days, he came back. He was sold the gun. Despite the fact that if there had been just one more day, the record of his felony conviction would have gotten him. And he would not have been able to buy that gun. But he did. And then he took that gun, and he went to Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina. And he walked in during Bible study, didn't he? And he was welcome. Because the good, faithful people there, they knew their scripture. They knew to welcome the stranger. And they did. The stranger came in. He sat amongst them as they discussed their Bible lesson for that week. And then at the end, he took out that gun and killed 9 faithful people. This is common sense. It's also common sense to prevent people who have been put on what's called the no-fly list because there's credible evidence that they have some potential link to terrorism. That people on that no-fly list should not be able to buy a gun in America. Common sense. But every time Congress, the Democrats in Congress try to pass that common sense provision so that gun sellers can check the list that includes people on the no-fly list. Gun lobby tells all the people they intimidate, don't you dare vote for that. Makes no sense. So we have work to do, and I'm going to work on this every single day as president. Every single day. I'm going to do everything I can. Because here's how I feel about it. As a mother and a grandmother, we have a lot of barriers to knock down that hold people back. We've got to build ladders of opportunity, especially for communities that have been left out and left behind. But nothing's more precious than a child's life. And while we're knocking down those barriers, we need to do everything we can to protect our children and all the other Americans who lose their lives every year. 33,000 of us every year to gun violence. Now, yesterday in Harlem, I was able to speak to a large crowd of people I knew well because I'd represented them in the Senate for 8 years. Elected officials, community activists, professionals, business leaders, young activists and citizens, to outline what I intend to do to break down the barriers. It's important that we look at everything that holds people back, and yesterday my core emphasis and commitment was to knocking down the barriers that hold back African Americans. There is something wrong, my friends, when African Americans are nearly 3 times as likely as whites to be denied a mortgage. When the median wealth of black families is just a tiny fraction of the median wealth of white families. And yes, when gun violence is the leading cause of death of young African American men, more than the following 9 causes all combined. Something is wrong. When black children in Flint, Michigan are poisoned with lead in their water because their governor wanted to save money. We need to face the reality of systemic racism. If we are going to be able to break down the barriers in our economy, our society, and our political system that disproportionately affect African Americans and build those ladders of opportunity in their place. We've got to break down the barriers of bigotry. We've got to make sure that young children here in Chicago have the same chance at a quality education as children in the suburbs of Chicago. We've got to make sure that transportation can take people to the jobs that are available so that they can actually get to work when they find a job opportunity. We've got to make sure that immigrant families don't live in fear. They can come out of the shadows. They're not vulnerable to deportation and mistreatment and exploitation by employers. We have to be sure that finally women are paid equal pay for the work they do. You know, there's a lot of things I have to say in this campaign that I stop and think to myself, it is 2016. And I'm still talking about making sure women get equal pay. There's something kind of out of sync about that. You know, there is actually evidence that proves women don't get paid equally. Now, the Republicans deny all of that. They don't believe that there's a problem. But we're going to work and fight until we finally get enforceable equal pay laws so that no woman, like the woman I met in New Hampshire, who'd worked in a store for 4 years as a cashier, she recommended her son for an opening during the summer. He's 17 years old, comes to work, doing exactly the same job as his mother. His first paycheck, he's really excited. He takes it home, he shows it to her, and her face falls. And he says, "Mom, what's wrong?" He says, "You are being paid more an hour than I am being paid right now after 4 years." And I asked the young man who told me this story, I said, "What did you do?" He said, "I didn't know what to do." He said, "But eventually I got up my nerve as I was leaving to go back to school, and I said to the manager, I noticed that I got paid more than my mother. Can you explain that?" And with a totally straight face, the manager said, "Well, we like to attract young men because maybe they'll become managers. We can put them on a track to a position in the company." And to this young man's credit, his mother really raised him right. He told me, he said to the manager, "Well, what about my mom? She's a good worker. She does everything she's asked to do." And the manager said, "Well, we like to recruit promising young men." This is the reality with so many working women. And we also need to raise the minimum wage because nobody works full time. And let's break down all the barriers of discrimination against the LGBT community because now you can get married on Saturday, but you can get fired on Monday. So we need to make sure we don't have any barriers of discrimination against anybody willing to work, anybody willing to do their job. We need more of that in America. We don't need to be erecting barriers. We need to be knocking them down. We've heard a lot in my campaign with my opponent, Senator Sanders, about Washington and Wall Street. And look, we both agree we need to get secret, unaccountable money out of politics. In fact, we need to get rid of Citizens United, that terrible decision the Supreme Court made. And we agree that Wall Street can never be allowed to wreck Main Street again. And no bank is too big to fail, and no executive is too powerful to jail. We agree on that as well. But I want you to know this. We need a president, yes, who's passionate about getting as much as possible money out of politics and reining in Wall Street, but we need a president who's passionate about creating jobs and raising incomes like I am for hard-working middle-class families. We need more growth in our economy, more jobs that can't be exported, jobs in infrastructure, manufacturing, clean renewable energy. the end of my husband's 2 terms in office, and he was in this ballroom about 8, 9 years ago. Our good friend, Elsie Higginbotham, is the one who really brought this back as a place in the community that people gather and have events like this. I want you to remember, and I want the young people to hear this. Because, you know, there's a lot of talk about, you know, we got to tear down everything in order to build up. Well, I'll tell you what happened at the end of the Clinton administration. We had 23 million new jobs. And incomes went up for everybody, not just those at the top. For middle-class families, working families. We lifted more people out of poverty than any time in recent American history. And here's what I especially want African-American families to remember. The median family income went up 17%. The median African-American family income went up 33%. Because there were a lot of new jobs. People could actually get those jobs, do those jobs, provide for their families, get on that ladder of opportunity to a better future. That's what I want to see us do again. And I'm confident we can. But we gotta believe we can. We have to decide we're gonna work together. We have to decide that we're gonna make progress every single day, step by step. I gotta tell you, when I look at what's happening here in Illinois, the Republican agenda to roll back the clock on everything that made the middle class strong in the 20th century, it's pretty terrifying. They even want to make it harder to vote in a lot of states. They want to undercut workers' rights, undercut unions. You know, the American labor movement was essential to building the American middle class. A lot of what we achieved in the 20th century is now at risk. And add to that, we have the Supreme Court hanging in the balance. You know, Republicans say that they won't even consider a nominee that the president sends forth, no matter how qualified. Some have even said, President Obama doesn't have the right to nominate anyone. As if, you know, he's not our real president. Now, a lot of them do live in an alternative reality. We recognize that. Not only is he our president, but under the Constitution, he has a responsibility to fill this Supreme Court position. And I served in the United States Senate for 8 years, and the United States Senate has an obligation to act on that nomination. You know, you hear some of the Republicans say, oh, well, there's not enough time left. That is so ridiculous. The longest contested nomination I'm aware of in recent times was the 100 days it took to confirm Clarence Thomas. President Obama has more than 300 days left. The other argument is, well, it's an election year. And the president was great yesterday when he said, oh, there's nothing in the Constitution about how you can't nominate somebody in an election year. There's also precedent for it. President Reagan was in his last year. There was a vacancy. He nominated someone. That someone turned out to be Justice Kennedy. He was confirmed by the Senate. There's just not a leg for them to stand on. This is pure, naked hostility and opposition to the President of the United States. Now here in Illinois, we have the opposite problem. We have a governor yesterday. I mean, this is material for some kind of sitcom. Because he'll be speaking without actually having a budget in place. The governor has refused to start budget negotiations unless his so-called turnaround agenda gets passed first. Now, his plan would turn Illinois around, all right, all the way back to the time of the robber barons at the end of the 19th century. That's where he wants to take this state. He wants to slash prevailing wage standards for construction projects, a policy that benefits middle-class families. He wants to undermine public employees, hard-won rights to bargain collectively, the way that Scott Walker did in Wisconsin. He wants to cut benefits for workers who are hurt on the job. And that's on top of the thousands of parents who have been cut off from affordable child care in this state. And he has cut services for people struggling with drug addiction, turning them away from treatment. He also has really put extra burdens on low-income students who were counting on state MAP grants to go to college. Many of Illinois' public colleges and universities stepped up to cover the fall semester, but they don't have enough money to do that in the spring. They need a governor who will actually pass a budget. Chicago State University won't be able to pay its bills after March 1st. They need the governor to pass a budget. And we should be making it easier and more affordable for students to go to college, stay in college, and graduate. But if you follow the money, as you should, all these cuts, the people hurt on the job, students, colleges, universities, are to benefit people on the top. There's just something wrong. You know, I'm a native of Illinois. I was born in Chicago. Now, we used to have disagreements. There were Republicans and Democrats. My father was a Republican. We had arguments around the dinner table every night once I got to high school. But there was also a common sense understanding. There were certain things that the government did, certain things the private sector did, certain things that not-for-profit, faith communities, and others did, and it all worked together. We've lost that. We've lost that consensus, and we've got to rebuild it. So here's my pledge to you. I will work harder than anyone to make the changes that actually improve people's lives. And I won't make promises I can't keep. We don't need any more. And in my experience, to make change, you've got to keep fighting every single day. You've got to keep pushing. It's not easy. There are a lot of folks who defend the status quo, or in your governor's case, want to go back 120 or 30 years. And if you're knocked down, you got to get right back up. I know that because that's what I've had to do. And I believe with all my heart, that's what our country is ready to do. The people that I have met throughout this campaign and all the years before, they can't wait to get their prescription drug costs down. They can't wait to make college more affordable. They can't wait to be able to refinance their student debt, to get the thousands of dollars of debt off their backs. And so we have work to do, my friends. I really believe that if we look to our last two Democratic presidents, both of whom I know well, leadership that in both cases inherited big economic problems from their Republican predecessors. In my husband's case, it was a recession, a ballooning national debt, a big deficit. He got no help from the Republicans, not a single vote. And he had to get up every day and work as hard as he could to make progress for the American people. President Obama, our young, dynamic president, comes into office. He gets handed the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That was a result of Republican policies. I was in the Senate. I saw what they did. They inherited a balanced budget and a surplus from my husband. They inherited an economy that was working. You always have to make adjustments, but it was on the right track. And they proceeded to do what they always do. Go back to trickle-down economics that favor the few over the many. Cut taxes on the wealthy, get out of the way of Wall Street, get out of the way of the mortgage market. And we know what happened. So when President Obama was elected, we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. We ended up losing 9 million jobs overall, and 5 million homes were lost. $13 trillion in family wealth wiped out. And I bet every one of us in this room knows somebody who falls into one of those categories. I remember meeting with the president-elect right here in Chicago. He called me a few days after the election, asked me to come see him. I didn't know why. Turned out he wanted me to be Secretary of State, which I was deeply honored and flattered about. But before we even got to talk about that, he just looked at me and said, "It is so much worse than they told us." Now, I don't think the president gets the credit he deserves for making sure we didn't call in. You know, he's called him weak, he's called him disappointing. He even tried to advocate for somebody to run against him when he ran for re-election in 2012. Well, I gotta tell you, anybody who understands how hard it is to make progress, anybody who understands what this president accomplished from getting the economy back on the track, getting the Affordable Care Act passed, which covers 18 million people, passing the toughest regulations on Wall Street since the 1930s in the Dodd-Frank bill, saving the American auto industry from collapse. I don't know, that's pretty impressive to me. And I am unapologetic. I will build on the progress that President Obama has made. I will take it further. But I need your help. I need your help. You know, we're in a tough election season. We got Republicans saying the most outlandish, outrageous things imaginable, right? They want to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Now, they never tell you what they put in place of it because, you know what, they can't really say it because it amounts to just turning our healthcare system back to the insurance companies, letting them do what they were doing to us before. You know, before there was Obamacare, there was what they called Hillary Care. I took on the insurance companies. I took on the drug companies. I took them on because they were pricing so many Americans out of any kind of insurance. I'll tell you a quick story. I was at the Children's Hospital in Cleveland, meeting with parents of really sick kids who couldn't get insurance no matter how hard they tried. And one man said to me, he said, "You know, I'm successful. I'm a businessman. I run a business. I provide health insurance to my employees and their families. I can't get anybody to sell me a policy for my 2 daughters who have cystic fibrosis." I said, "What do they say to you when you go and ask them?" He said, "Well, I'll tell you, last time I brought my financial statement so they could see that I could pay for something. Brought my medical costs for my 2 girls. And the guy just looked at it and then looked at me and he said, 'You don't understand. We don't insure burning houses. This man looked at me with tears in his eyes and he said, they call my little girls burning houses. That's what it was like. For those of you who were not around back then or didn't have to worry about insurance, that was what it was like. Because of President Obama's leadership, we now have the Affordable Care Act. I want to improve it. I want to get the cost down. I will never let the Republicans repeal it. But I will also defend it against efforts to try to start all over again, which is what my opponent has advocated. We are at 90% coverage. We are 10% from universal coverage. I know how to make up that 10%. I know how to get every single American covered with affordable quality care. And my opponent, who won't tell you really what it would cost and how much middle-class taxes would be raised, wants to throw our country into a contentious national debate about health insurance all over again. You know, it does seem to me it's harder to get from 0 to 100 than from 90 to 100%. So I'm not going to overpromise. I'm not going to make promises I can't keep. I'm going to level with you. I'm going to tell you what things will cost. I'm going to tell you how we'll get it done. I'm going to tell you what a difference it will make in people's lives. How we will make progress together, because I am a progressive who believes in making progress. I think that's so I hope you will sign up to work in my campaign. We need your help. It's exciting to me to be competing again in Illinois because I have so many of my friends here still, literally from grade school and elementary school. I have the best friends that anybody could have. They travel around the country telling people that, guess what, I really am a real person. They tell more stories and more jokes about me than I hope ever appear in print. But they are so dear to me. We've been through so much together, starting so long ago. And it makes me think a lot about the future. Because now that I'm a grandmother, I have this precious granddaughter, we have another grandchild coming in the summer. And there's something about being a grandparent that makes you think even more about the future. For those of us who are. And here's what I want. I want our children and our grandchildren to grow up with the same hopes and dreams that many of us grew up with the same belief that their hard work will be rewarded, that they will live in safety, so no other mother has to worry when their child goes to the playground or goes to church and helps somebody unload musical instruments and is shot in front of the church. We want our children to grow to adulthood in an America that respects our diversity, that lifts each other up, that breaks down the barriers holding us back. That is what I hope for my grandchild. That is what I hope for every child. I started my professional career as a young lawyer working for the Children's Defense Fund. I learned a lot about the barriers that hold back kids and what we could do about them. And I believe with all my heart that every child in this country deserves a chance to live up to his or her God-given potential. If you will help me in this primary, if you will stand with me, if you will fight for me, I promise you, I will fight for you, I will work for you, and together we will.